Hi, I'm Senator Tom Udall, and you're watching the Udall Update. Thank you for joining me for the Udall Update, an inside look at what's happening in our nation's capital and how it impacts life in New Mexico. For this inaugural episode, I'll be joined by your New Mexico delegation in the U.S. House of Representatives, Congressman Ben Ray Lujan, Martin Heinrich, and Harry Teague. I spent 10 years in the House, and I'm eager to hear from them about how their first terms have been going. But first, let me tell you a little more about the Udall Update.
In 2009, Tom Udall became New Mexico's 17th United States Senator, following 2 decades of serving New Mexico, first as Attorney General, then representing the 3rd Congressional District. Today, Tom is working in the U.S. Senate on behalf of New Mexicans to move our nation forward. On the Commerce Committee, Tom promotes increased consumer protection, expanding broadband, and encouraging innovation in scientific progress. On the Environment and Public Works Committee, Tom continues his fight for clean energy jobs that reduce our dependence on foreign oil. On the Indian Affairs Committee, Tom is an advocate for New Mexico's tribal communities. And on the Rules Committee, Tom is working to reform Congress and Washington to make it work better for the American people. The Udall Update brings you in-depth information about Tom's work on these and other important issues as part of an exclusive behind-the-scenes look into our nation's capital. In the Sensible Solutions segment, you'll get a full rundown on a piece of legislation Tom is working on. And in Tom's inbox, you'll get answers to your questions. Through interviews and tours, the Udall Update will give you a unique look at what happens in Washington and how it impacts New Mexico. You can catch the Udall Update at tomudall.senate.gov or on your local community access television station.
And that's the plan, to keep you in the loop on what's happening in Washington and how it impacts New Mexico. Now we're going to take a closer look at one piece of legislation I've been working on in a segment called Sensible Solutions. When I was New Mexico Attorney General, we began cracking down on drunk drivers and taking dramatic steps to make our roads safer. This year I introduced a bill that will allow us to take what we learned in New Mexico and apply it nationally.
The promise of technology that could stop a drunk driver from hitting the roads is closer than ever. The Roads Safe Act, sponsored by Senators Tom Udall and Bob Corker, supports the development of in-car technology that prevents a drunk driver from operating their vehicle if they've been drinking over the legal limit. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is spearheading this research with their Driver Alcohol Detection System for Safety program. They will look at a number of different methods for detecting a driver's blood alcohol level, like touching a steering wheel or engine start button, as well as sensors that passively monitor a driver's breath or eye movements. This new program looks at how the next generation of technology can prevent future drunk driving deaths and make sure our roads are safe.
Every drunk driving death is a preventable death. So the Roads Safe Act looks at how technology can help save lives. Here with me to talk more about the importance of exploring new technologies to combat drunk driving is the CEO of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Chuck Hurley. Chuck, thanks so much for being here.
Well, nice to be with you, Senator.
It's a real pleasure to have you, and I know that, Chuck, you've followed the New Mexico situation and followed what we've been working on. What do you think the lessons are out of New Mexico in terms of tackling drunk driving?
Well, the first lesson is probably leadership. A lot of the progress in New Mexico began when you were Attorney General. In the late 90s, your task force really brought together all the invented knowledge on what it would take to bring down the very tough problem New Mexico had. New Mexico was one of the worst states in the country at that point. And that progress, continued on by Governor Richardson and others, bipartisan progress, has made New Mexico a national model for MAD. And so I'd say the first lesson is leadership. It takes people in positions such as Attorney General and Governor and now U.S. Senator to make good things happen.
We have a national piece of legislation taking the lessons you talked about and putting them into action at the national level, spreading them around the country, working for other states. And it's called the Roads Safe Act. Tell me where you think this could have the biggest impact and why.
This may be the most important piece of legislation MAD has supported, and we really do thank you for leading its efforts in the United States Senate. During my lifetime, Senator, more than 1 million people have been killed by drunk driving in the United States. I'm 64, an average of more than 20,000 fatalities a year. Thankfully, that's down to only 11,773 last year. But there is a wonderful promise of technology, not a guarantee, that is being explored with a cooperative research agreement by the major automobile companies in the world and the U.S. Department of Transportation. And they are looking at technology that within 10 years, the car may well know when the driver's over the illegal limit of 0.08 PAC. Some of it's pretty high technology stuff. Some of it came from Los Alamos. And a technology firm in New Mexico, TrueTouch, that I think you're familiar with as well. And they are been actively at work and are producing proof of concept models that will be available next month. And it holds the promise of a vaccine for drunk driving, that if you can't stop drunks from driving, maybe you can stop the car from allowing drunks to drive. And your bill would provide the very essential seed money to get that to market. And we are very grateful for your leadership.
Well, we're also very grateful for your leadership at MAD, and I was saddened to hear that you're going to retire, and I wondered what you were thinking about doing next.
Well, I'm going to get promoted to MAD volunteer, Senator. I was a volunteer for MAD for 25 years before becoming CEO, and intend to go back to that. I've got 6 grandchildren that need to learn how to fish and swim and important things like that. But I will still be very involved with MAD. But we've got a new CEO, Kimberly Earl, that we'll bring by to meet with you next month. Was Chief Operating Officer at Komen for the Cure, the Breast Cancer Foundation in Texas. We expect great things to continue to happen at MAD, and particularly working with you, we're certain. And with the interlock laws that New Mexico has pioneered, and with the Road Safe Act and the advanced technology that you're leading, there literally is a hope and a promise that we can have a vaccine for drunk driving that won't eliminate drinking, never our goal, won't eliminate impairment, begins before 0.08, but 0.08 and above won't happen. And what a great day that would be for New Mexico and for the country.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Chuck, we're going to miss you on your national leadership that you have provided, but I fully understand about the grandchildren, and we wish you the very best, and we hope that you do stay involved, and know you will as a MAD volunteer. Thank you for coming today.
Well,
great to have
Senator.
you.
Nice
it's a
to see
real
you.
pleasure.
Thanks again for your leadership.
Thank you. Another area where New Mexico is leading the way is in clean energy policies. Our state is one of the many that have pushed ahead with a renewable electricity standard, mandating that a portion of our power come from clean sources. And with an abundance of wind, sun, and ingenuity, New Mexico can lead the clean energy economy. That means new jobs in our state, and we can already see what that future will look like.
Where the sun shines, there's a potential for energy, and New Mexico has no shortage of sunshine. Tom Udall's first speech as U.S. Senator called for a national plan for harnessing that energy through a renewable electricity standard.
When I was in the other body, I fought for and we passed a renewable electricity standard, an RES. This plan would demand that large utilities generate a portion of their energy from renewable sources and conservation. Similar policies have succeeded at the state level. In fact, 28 states have renewable standards, including my home state of New Mexico. But a national RES has never become the law of the land. It's time for Congress to make it so.
New Mexico's RES has jump-started clean energy industries. Sacred Power in Albuquerque is a Native American-owned business that has been installing solar panels for years. The company started out building solar panel units for tribal communities outside of the power grid.
They're just shipped to a lot of the reservations that are hard to get power to, and they're so remotely out of, away from the freeway, and it's hard to get electricity to them. So this is how we help them out, and it's enough to power up a light, a receptacle outlet, and we also provide them with the refrigerator.
But in nearly a decade, business has taken off to larger and larger projects.
It's growing a lot. Back in the day, it wasn't that much work, but nowadays we're getting jam-packed. Yeah, there's work every week.
And the new incentives in a clean energy economy bring new businesses and more jobs. Schott Solar set up shop in Albuquerque in 2009 for that very reason.
We have a strong research and development community between Sandia Labs and a lot of the other high-tech companies, and we have plenty of sunshine here. So energy generation is really just, from the sun, is just really a high potential for us to get started here.
And demand for clean energy is growing. Schott anticipates expanding the facility, creating up to 1,500 jobs.
I think it's a great opportunity for New Mexicans. There's a lot of educated individuals here and a lot of skills in general due to the other manufacturing sites that are in the area, the laboratories, and the universities. So I think it's a great place for solar energy to be, and we have a great place to actually use the technology that we're building.
With a national RES, New Mexico has the potential to provide renewable electricity beyond its state lines and to lead a clean energy economy.
The potential for expanding clean energy in New Mexico is huge. It's important for our economy and for our environment, and we need to act now. To learn more, go to tomudall.senate.gov and click Energy and Global Warming. One place that has already acted on clean energy legislation is the U.S. House of Representatives, which brings us to our feature of today's Udall Update. I'm pleased to be joined by New Mexico's House delegation. From our 1st District, Martin Heinrich. From our 2nd District, Harry Teague. And from our 3rd District, Ben Ray Lujan. One of the things that I think is the most interesting about serving in the House of Representatives is how you transition from the life you had before into the House of Representatives. Could each of you talk about that a little bit, what the transition's been like?
Well, I'll tell you,
Ray,
Tom,
go ahead. Start out and we'll go down the line.
Yeah,
here.
well, it's great to be with you today. When we first were elected, especially coming in after you had a chance to get that orientation, you walk into your office and there's a box of computers waiting for you. There's no furniture around the walls and whatnot. And it's a matter of what you have to do to get that office up and running. So that way you're able to get back home and work with your constituents. But, being able to travel back and forth and learning how to navigate those airports a little bit so that way you can get to the constituents has been fun. But for the most part, with yourselves, with Senator Udall and Senator Brigham and Martin and Harry, I'll tell you, having that kind of support from our delegation in New Mexico and from other members across the country has really been great as far as helping us really ease right into this. There's a lot of work to do, and it's been tough. But I'll tell you, having the support of our friends and our colleagues has made a world of difference for myself.
Harry, transition, thoughts?
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having us here. I think it's good that you let us be here with the inaugural show. I think it was kind of hectic switching from the lifestyle of southern New Mexico to the hectic pace of Washington, D.C. And the transportation is a little different here in D.C. than it is in New Mexico with the metro system, which we didn't have in Hobbs. But it's very exciting as you learn how things work. As Ben said, to set up the office and get everything to where that you can use it and know what's going on, and be working with legislation that benefits and helps affects all people. It's quite exciting, and Yes, you know, you're traveling too much by airplane when people in Dallas know you by your first name. But yeah, going back to New Mexico almost every weekend, you do get familiar with people in strange places like DFW.
Yeah, I think I'm still transitioning. I mean, getting used to it, and I see all of you guys in the airports, and whether it's BWI or Dulles or back home in Albuquerque, keeping this sort of lifestyle of moving back and forth once a week. It really is challenging, just changing time zones twice a week and spending all that time in an airplane and trying to make it productive so that when you hit the ground in Albuquerque, you're on top of the things that are going on back home. The thing that I've found that's been really helpful is having the delegation support and having great staff, and just making sure you spend some time back home with your family to recharge your batteries. Those are the things that I've sort of learned over the last year really matter.
Well, one of the things is, as you know, is when you move down the road doing this, you have bumps in the road, you have things that are rewarding, you have things that are very unpredictable. Do you want to talk about any of those kinds of things that have come up? Harry, why don't you start, and then we'll go to Martin and then Ray.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like Martin said, you know, I walked around the first few weeks up here with my chin on my chest, just in amazement at where we were at and what we were doing. But you know, as we get an opportunity to work on some legislation that, like I said earlier, actually affects people's life and makes a difference for them, you know, like immediately after we got up here, you know, we got to work for and vote on the S-chips so that the kids have the ability to go to the doctor. And the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, you know, to think that, you know, it's the 111th Congress and we get to vote on women having the same pay as men if they do the same job. So, yeah, I mean, also, as Martin said, you know, I mean, it continues to amaze me. There's something new every day, and hopefully that will continue for a long time. But yeah, you know, when you get to working and with your staff and with your fellow members, and I mean, I'm very blessed to be here with Ben and Martin because we have a lot of good times together visiting on the floor. We've been very helpful with each other. But yeah, it's exciting when you get to doing things that actually make a difference in people's lives.
Martin?
You know, I came here from the city council, and one of the things that surprised me was I was used to constituent work and used to the policy side of things, but I didn't really realize, especially at the constituent level, how much of when you can help somebody who's in a bind cut through all that red tape, how incredibly grateful people are, whether it's helping somebody with their VA benefits, or I had a constituent who Medicare had decided that she was deceased, and when she spoke to me, she seemed very much alive. And you know, when you can intervene and say, you know, somebody's made a horrible mistake here and get it fixed, people are so incredibly grateful for that. And that's been something that sort of caught me by surprise and is really very gratifying.
When you hit a home run with those, yeah. I think that individual and their family never forget about it. Yeah. There's just no doubt. Ben, Ray, any?
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, when you talk about constituent services and working with people back home, there's nothing more gratifying than being able to help them out, to do something that they've been having a little bit of trouble with, to be able to make their lives a little bit better, to help them back home. That's really what this is all about. And to be able to work with Martin and Harry, I'll tell you, on big pieces of legislation, that may not be so big to the rest of the country, but that sure make a difference back home, really mean the world a difference to all that we do, and that's been great.
I served in the House, and one of the favorite committees that I had was what was called Natural Resources, or in my dad's day they called it the House Interior Committee. Why don't you each tell us what your favorite committee, or the committee that you spend the most time on, and what you're working on in that committee?
Yeah, you know, I mean, both of my committees, Transportation and Infrastructure, is very interesting because, you know, my district's so huge and we have so many roads and need so much help there. And I've been in Martin and Ben's district. Theirs are fine. They don't need any roads or anything.
Careful there.
But really, you know, the things that I've been, when I got elected, I wanted to be on the Veterans Affairs Committee because I think that our country is the wonderful country that it is because of our veterans more than any single thing. And it seems like so many times that they don't get the things that they have earned, you know. And so to get to work with them, the first time that there's ever been a congressman from my district to serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee, to be concerned for them, that's the most fulfilling committee that I have. To do things like the Advanced Appropriations and the Mental Health Screening Act and the Caregivers Act, things that you see that are really making a difference in the life of the men and women that made a difference in our life by protecting us in foreign countries.
Martin?
You know, I really enjoy natural resources. It's before I came to Congress, I was working as a natural resources trustee for the state. And that was a committee where I just felt at home right away, being able to work on some of the incredible public lands we have in New Mexico, being able to work with Ben Ray on the water settlement needs in northern New Mexico that you and Senator Bingaman have been working on for a long time. And it's one of those committees that really makes sense for the state of New Mexico in many ways. But I also really enjoy armed services, and that's been, you know, I started out of college working out at Kirtland Air Force Base, and now I'm able to come full circle and see the incredible things that our military does to make sure we're secure in this nation. Has been I really enjoy that. It's new and it's fresh and it's different, and so I've had a great time on armed services as well.
You know, you talk about the public lands bill, and we all worked on that together, and it must have been pretty exciting to be at the point where you were on a committee that we hadn't had a piece of legislation in 25 years that was that good in terms of public lands. And I know, Ben Ray, you've joined that committee also soon, but do you have any thoughts on favorite committee? Or?
Well, I'll tell you, science and technology has been a great committee to work on. We've been able to talk about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education for our kids, looking to see what we can do around our national labs and create more opportunities for small businesses to collaborate with our scientists, with our physicists, really making a difference. You know, one of the frustrations there, Tom, has been how so many members still argue about if climate change is real or not. You know, and those are some of the things we tackle every day. But even while I served on Homeland Security, we were able to advocate for some science that came out of the labs to be able to make our airports safer. And you're absolutely right. I'm so looking forward to serving on natural resources and really being able to look after our land and our water back home and our tribes and making a big difference there.
You know, we have a delegation in the House. All of you are award winners, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about those awards. Harry, I believe and I saw you earlier talking about veterans. The Afghanistan and Iraqi veterans gave you the Legislator of the Year award, I believe. Could you tell a little bit about that and how that occurred?
Actually, I did get an award from the Council of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans, but it was the American Tendonitis Association. And for everybody that may not know what tendonitis is, it's the ringing in the ears that these men and women have from having got on the explosives over there. It's the most common claim that is filed by our veterans is tendonitis. And I mean, you know, I think about the times that, you know, when my head stops up because of altitude, and to think that they're having that problem, you know, for days and years, but anyhow, it was the ATA, the American Tendonitis Association, that made me their Congressman of the Year, and I was very excited to be selected by a group of veterans that have done so much for our country that they thought I'd done something for them. I felt really kind of got a little puffed up, actually.
No, that was a good award. Martin, I'm not going to ask you about that handsome award. You know, that was one that you received, no doubt about it. But I'm not going to ask about that one. The one that I'm fascinated by, because we had a large class, and one of my good friends was the president. You were elected class president for the 111th. Could you talk a little bit about that?
You know, I think the thing that was that was really neat about it for me is it forced me to get to know all of our colleagues very quickly and very early on, and really gave me enormous respect for the caliber of people who came in that 2008 class. And we had over 30 members all around the country, geographically diverse, completely different backgrounds, but really first-class folks. And I know Harry and Ben Ray and myself, and getting to work with some of these people, we're really lucky to be able to work with people of that caliber on a regular basis. It's inspiring, and I think it makes all of us aspire to get more done for our constituents, because we see some of the finest people in the country and what they're able to do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, Ben Ray, Hispanic Business Magazine, I think put you in the category of one of the most 100 influential leaders. How did that happen, and what was your response to that?
Well, Tom, it's always an honor to be recognized by your peers for doing things, but it's just a matter of everyone doing what our jobs are. Advocating for veterans, being able to make a difference when it comes to being a leader for our new class, making sure that the Hispanic community, Latino community across the country is going to be there when it comes to solving our energy problems and advancing the green economy. Those are things that we've all been doing, and it's great to know that other people are taking notice. But I'll tell you, job number one for all of us is making sure we're getting things done for New Mexico, and that's where we have such a great team that we've been able to do some things back home.
When you mention getting things done for New Mexico, I've watched each of you in this first term, and all of you, I think, are very hardworking. You take the task, whatever it is, and put the energy into it. The committees you serve on cover all of New Mexico. We've talked a little bit about those committees today, so I'm very honored to be serving with you. I wish you the best in future endeavors, and I know that every day each of you is going to be working hard to make sure that New Mexico is well represented in the U.S. House of Representatives. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
An important part of my job is getting feedback and responding to questions from you. I receive thousands of messages from constituents across New Mexico, letters, emails, and posts on my Facebook page. That's the motivation behind the Udall Update, keeping you informed on the topics you're interested in. So let's take a look at a question. Bill from Albuquerque writes, I'm retired from American Airlines and receive medical insurance for me and my family through my retirement package. According to my current policy, dependents lose their coverage at 18 or 23 if in college. My son is 21 and graduating from college in a few weeks, so he would not be eligible for insurance. Doesn't the new law mandate them to insure my son until age 26? Your help in this matter will be appreciated. Bill, you're absolutely right. An important part of health insurance reform is making sure that your kids can be covered until they're 26. When a young person enters the workforce today, it doesn't necessarily come with health insurance. So starting on September 23rd of this year, health plans that cover kids will be required to do so until they're 26. Both married and unmarried children qualify for this coverage. The great news is that private insurance companies that cover the majority of Americans are doing the right thing and voluntarily implementing this policy right now. This way, students who graduate in 2010 won't have to see a lapse in coverage. To find out more, contact your employer, your insurance company, or go to www.healthreform.gov. So there's a glance at my inbox. If you want to submit a question, go to my website, tomudall.senate.gov, and click Contact Tom. And that's it for this inaugural episode of the Udall Update. You can find out more about the issues we covered today on my website at tomudall.senate.gov. Also, be sure to join the conversation on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, watch my videos on YouTube, and see my photos on Flickr. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Cheers.